MacVoices is sponsored by MintMobile. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we are talking a lot about working from home and being productive while we're all in lockdown, and whatever the phrase is that your state, county, town uses.
Zombie apocalypse.
And that's why I wanted to talk to Bob, Dr. LeVitus, because he's been doing this for 1 or 2 years, Bob.
I shudder to think of how many years. It's over 30 now.
Wow. And that's, it's a point that I don't think people really appreciate, that, so many of the folks that we talk to, so many of the Mac journalists and tech journalists really don't have offices necessarily, with the rare exception of the folks who used to be at Macworld Magazine. Most folks were working from their home offices or wherever they happen to be.
Even when I was at Macworld and Mac User, I was never in their offices. I was always from home. It's like only core staff live in the office. Feature writers and columnists generally don't. So, I've made my living working from home since the 80s. Partly because I have a terrible trait. I get fired when I have a boss. And so working from home enables me to work for people that never have to meet me or argue with me or anything. We do everything by email. Everything is like, I don't lose my temper because I can think about stuff as long as I want before I have to reply. It's no face-to-face, no telephone. And that works for me. I'm a terrible employee. And I knew that a long time ago. So I just decided I had to figure out how to make this happen. Because the B word just, I don't know, something about me and bosses. Ask anyone I've ever had. Not editors, though. I'm okay with editors because they're not like a boss. They're just someone you work with. But it's not like somebody telling you what to do day and night. Every move is like, do this, do that. I'm terrible at that. I'm just rebellious at heart. And so if you tell me to do something, my inclination is to do something else. Makes me a bad employee.
Okay, so this brings up an interesting dynamic, because I guess the good news for a lot of us is that we are working at home now, and I see that as good news. The bad news is, though, that a lot of us still have bosses to answer to. So, we're having to be a lot more independent, a lot more self-driven or self-managed, which, again, I kind of think that I think a lot of people are surprised at maybe how easy it is.
Are you watching this microphone slowly rising? It's like,
it is.
Pulling it. I know. I keep pulling it down, and it's like it's on a piston, so it goes up unless I tighten it.
Bob's office is haunted.
No, now it'll stay. But I was watching it on the monitor, going,
there it goes.
Oh, it's still doing it. Oh,
it's still going.
That's the problem. I tightened the wrong one. Okay, now it should stay.
Now it's been. Yeah, now we're rock star.
Heel. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's. Again, that's an interesting dynamic, because we're all trying to self-motivate and self-manage a lot more, as opposed to having someone that comes out and, depending on your boss and your workplace, I mean, they may be right on top of you all the time, or they may just let you go and do your thing and work it out. But at the end of the day, we still all have to learn to focus at home, where there are distractions that we really never had before in the office.
Different distractions. In the office, you have, people knocking on your door, and you can't very well say, don't knock on my door. You might be able to work with them and say, don't knock on my door when I have the sign up. See, that's one of my hints for at home. I had kids that were at home for a long time. And once they were old enough to get it, I explained that Daddy works at home. And when the sign is on the door, Daddy's working. And you need to write a note on the door of what you need. And as soon as I'm done working, I'll come out and read the note and take care of it. But if you come in, I might throw something at you. And the sign says, enter at your own risk. So, it just different degrees. Bosses, you can't really do that with, but that's how you do family. You explain how it is and say, I need to not be interrupted unless you're bleeding or it's a severe emergency. And not just a little bleeding. If it's a boo-boo with a Band-Aid, mommy can do it. But there's a whole thing to it. It's like I turn off do not disturb on all my devices when I'm trying to focus and get stuff done. Because, I used to say, yeah, when I'm in the zone, I really get a lot done. The problem was I could barely find the zone, much less stay in it. I just didn't know how. But when I got there, it was awesome. It was like the words just flew out of my fingers almost as fast as I could type. And I wanted to learn how to harness that. It's like if I could do that for a couple of minutes and it's great, what if I could do it for 15 or 20 minutes in a row? That'd be like doing an hour of work. And that's exactly what I've discovered, is that 25 minutes of uninterrupted focused work is the equivalent of an hour of starting and stopping and starting and stopping and doing a bunch of things. People think multitasking is efficient, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time you end up not doing as well at any of the things you're doing when you're focused on three things and you're trying to juggle them and do them all at the same time. So I try to focus on one task at a time, and I try to prioritize those tasks. I try to, at the beginning of the day, determine what needs to be done today, what absolutely does, what is the most important thing I need to accomplish, what are the three most important things. And I write them down where I can see them all day long, and I make sure that those things get taken care of. There's a lot of research that says if you're in the zone, it can take you up to 20 minutes to get back in the zone after an interruption. And so the more you can get there and stay there and do the work that needs to be done while you're in the zone, the faster you can get out of the office. The faster you finish the stuff on your list. And I used to have a to-do list, and it was totally inefficient. It grew to about 13 pages, and I just cherry-picked the stuff that wasn't hard or was fun or that I felt like doing. And lots of stuff that was important got pushed off until it was too urgent to ignore anymore. I did a lot of work late at night on the last night before a deadline, and that's not a recipe for good work. Well, and so this thing that working smarter, it's the name of a book and a course that I teach, but it's a philosophy. It's like, what do you do to not work 17-hour days? What do you do to get that down to 8 hours or 7 hours? How can you avoid rabbit holes? It used to be for me, anything shiny. I'd be working and I'd stop and pick up my guitar and play. And 30 minutes later, I'd be like, oh, crap, I did it again. Or I'd start watching cat videos on YouTube or whatever. But I'm easily distracted, and I had to learn to make myself focus for short periods of time, but on one thing and get that thing done. And so I discovered a technique called the Pomodoro technique. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
I know it and love it.
It's one of my favorites, and it really helps. And it's a real simple thing. You set a timer, any timer, for 25 minutes. You turn everything to do not disturb that you can. Turn off your phone if you can, and do one thing. Write that thing, answer all the email in your inbox, make a phone call, whatever it is, focus on that for 25 minutes and do nothing else. And if you get interrupted, start the timer over, because you're not getting a full 25 minutes of focus. And I just do that all day long. In fact, I created this little worksheet. I'll give you the URL. Do you have show notes or something?
Absolutely.
Good. I'll send you the URL. You can download it free. It's a PDF. I print them and fill one out every morning. They're called the upside down, of course, Super Plan Productivity Planning Worksheet. Here's the one for today. They're all, every day I fill one out. The two things that are key are down the left side are the hours of the day. And I try to put 2 Pomodoro sessions in each hour. So that's 25 minutes, and I have 10 minutes of break. It never works out that way. I like my breaks longer than 5 minutes. But in theory, that's how I break up my day. And that way I can see how much is on my plate for today. How many of those 25-minute sessions is it going to take to do all the work that needs to be done so I can leave and do something I want to do? And that's kind of the carrot. The carrot is, if you do all the things on that list by 4 o'clock, you're done. You can go shopping and cook dinner and not have to go back in the office after dinner. And for me, that's the goal. to have the time after everything is done to do the things I want to do, to make things out of wood or play guitar or record music. Or read, it's like for pleasure, not for work. It's nice. And so you can download this. The URL, we'll put the URL in the show notes. It's free. I print them out 30 at a time, so I have enough for the whole month. And in the morning, I spend 5 minutes thinking about what are the 3 most important tasks I got on my plate for today, and how am I going to divide up my day and take care of all the things that need to be taken care of. And on there will be 2 sessions of email, because it takes me 25 minutes twice a day to go through all the email. Sometimes it takes more. And I'll add a 3rd session at the end of the day to clear out my inbox. There's sessions in there for walking. I put 2 25-minute walking sessions in my day, because it's really important now that you're doing this not to sit for 3 hours straight. It's really not good for you. It's not good for your joints and your health in general. And a little exercise is good. So they're on my schedule, twice a day. It says walk and drink some water. So I do that. I think the key, though, is to not let yourself get distracted. If you're prone to watching those cat videos, if you're prone to shopping on eBay, or my other thing was I used to look at guitars I couldn't afford. That was my thing. I'd go on eBay and look at all the guitars that I wasn't going to bid on, but oh wow, look at that Rickenbacker. I don't look anymore. I had saved searches. They would ping me if the price was low enough, but it was never low enough for me. I'm not a very good guitarist, so I'm not going to buy good guitars. But that would, those kinds of things would chew up my day. I'd get off on a tangent. I'd see a link to something else. Then someone would send me a text with a funny thing, and I'd click that link, and that would take me to another. And then I'd go on Facebook, and before I knew it, I had wasted hours that should have been spent working. And the thing is, I like doing stuff like that, but I've learned that I have to do the work that's important first. And then if I want to if I want to read all my friends' funny posts on Facebook, I can do that later in the day when everything, that's important has been done. And that's, for me, the way I do it. I've got to get stuff done early in the day, or else it doesn't get done. If it drags on past about 3 or 4 o'clock, then I start shuttling the stuff I'm not mentally on top of to tomorrow. It's like by 4 o'clock, I get up early. I'm in the office by 7 or 8 o'clock every day. And by 4 o'clock, I'm starting to burn out. And I know that. So I try to plan so that, by 4 o'clock, whatever's left is easy stuff, not super focusy like the mail. Mail is always one of the last things before I leave. But writing, I try to get 25 minutes of writing the chapter, because they get done so much faster if I just focus and churn through it than if I try to write a couple sentences and then talk to my wife and, play with the dog. And so I close the door and put the enter at your own risk sign up and turn everything on Do Not Disturb and work in 25-minute chunks. And most days, by 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm completely done with everything I planned to do today, sometimes 3 o'clock. And a lot of times I just find other stuff to do. I've got a lot of stuff in my reminders app that I need to do that's not on my daily plan. It's stuff that someday, and so like clean up my office is one of them.
So that's thank you, because that's one of the things I wanted to get to. First of all, I love the Pomodoro method. I use it myself, and I find that it is great. But there are a few things here, specifics that I want to get from you. The daily planner idea I love, because that helps you prioritize what you're going to get done today. But is your reminders list? Yeah, is your reminders list a?
It's the backup. It's long-term storage for everything that doesn't really need to be on the daily thing. And the daily thing has a section called random notes, where I put stuff that I want in my, on my radar, but that doesn't need a time slot today. So I've got a bunch of stuff over in random notes that gets carried forward from day to day that I just want to think about or not lose track of right now. And then everything else is in reminders. If it's something, and if it's time sensitive, if it's got a date attached, it's in my calendar. So something like this session would be in the calendar. I wouldn't even have it on here until the day it happens. And then I'd look at the calendar to make sure I'm not blocking out time on my worksheet that I've assigned elsewhere. But the calendar handles anything that's got a real time attached to it. Reminders handles everything I want to remember but don't need to see every day. And my daily sheets pretty much hold all of the meaty stuff that I need to be thinking about today. And I also find that it keeps me from dwelling and looking at a bunch of things I don't really need to do and trying to decide which of them to do, because they're not in my, I've got a lot of stuff on my daily sheet to the point where I hardly ever am going to open reminders and look for something else so I can, round out my day or feel like, I accomplished more. So about twice a month, I open up reminders and just kind of scroll through everything. Sometimes I move a few things into either the random notes or tomorrow's plan, where they'll stay until they're done. A lot of times stuff's on there for weeks. GarageBand for Dummies 2nd edition has been on there in big chunks every day, 25 minutes, like 6 times a day for 3 months, because that's the most important thing. I have a deadline. Oh, that's another thing. If you have a deadline, figure out what your quota is, because it's very hard to dig yourself out of the hole if you get behind. So let's say I have a 300-page book due in 2 months. That's 60 days to write 300 pages, right? Do the math. How many do I need to write a day? 5 pages. 60 times 5 is 300, I think. My math might be off, but I use the calculator when I do my quotas. What I'm saying, though, is you need to know, if you're doing a big project, what your milestones are, when you're supposed to be 25% done. If there's deliverables, you need to know, when those deliverable dates are coming. And so I tend to figure out how much I have to produce to break even, to hit my deadline and not have to beg for extra time or anything. And, it's pretty easy for me because I have hard deadlines. They're 300 pages by so-and-so date. It's easy for me to do the math and say, okay, so I need to write 4 pages every day, which means I can take a couple days off and then write 6 pages for 3 days in a row and be caught up. But if I get 12 pages behind or 18 pages behind or 24 pages behind, it starts to be a hole that you can't dig your way out of. So I try to really monitor my output and make sure that I'm completing enough that I don't get so far behind that I have to do bad work. That's my biggest fear, is that I'll get behind and, rush to finish something because I ran out of time. And the way around that is to quota and do a chunk every day and not let yourself fall behind so that you're scrambling at the end. It took me a lot of books before I learned that, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, and there's a mix here going on, I think, of time management and project management, and I've the idea of trying to quantify. Now, yours are, as you said, is a little bit easier,
really
maybe
easy
to quantify. I might have a project that is not as easy to quantify, but if I figure, okay, maybe I think I can get this project done in 10 hours. So that means if I need it done in 10 days, I've got an hour a day, right. Or, and you can play with the math and maybe then make some adjustments along the way. And you find out, oh, you know what? I think I underestimated this. Maybe I need 12. Maybe
research. I need to double the amount of time, but I still have the same deadline. So now I have to do 2 hours a day. But you need to know those things, or you end up underestimating and procrastinating because it feels good. It's like you'll go follow a lead when you're doing research on the internet, and you'll see something and you'll click it. And all of a sudden you're out of your zone and you're not working. You're smiling, you're having a good time watching that cat video or whatever it is, but you stop working. And there's stuff you can have that will stop you from doing that. There's like this app called Freedom that restricts you from the web or from specific websites for a given period of time, and it can't be overridden once you set it. So if you're one of those people that goes to YouTube for fun, you can tell it, don't let me go to YouTube between 9 and 5 every day but Saturday, and it won't.
MintMobile is sponsoring this edition of MacVoices. When was the last time you considered switching your cell carrier? I'm betting it was the last time you paid your bill. There has to be a better option out there than the same big carriers that have the big retail stores and the big bills to go with them. Now, however, you do have a choice. MintMobile is a new, modern kind of carrier, doing business online so they keep the costs down. But lower costs don't mean inferior service. Mint Mobile has amazing coverage, 4G LTE data plans, and even lets you keep your existing phone if you want to. And Mint Mobile has all the options you want and use. Unlimited nationwide talk and text, and data plans that run from 3 to 12 gigabytes per month. Those big carriers want you to think that the activation process is complex and difficult, so you won't leave them. Mint Mobile shows you just how easy it is. Your SIM arrives at your door, the activation process takes minutes, not hours, and you're up and running like nothing changed. Except that it did. You just moved into the 21st century with Mint Mobile. I want you to get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free by visiting mintmobile.com/MacVoices. That's mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of MacVoices. Another thing, though, I wanted to ask you, because I'm finding this, and I think a lot of folks are finding this working at home, is the email problem. That emails come in, and there's if you're so inclined, there's a terrible temptation to look at them. But B, if you are disciplined enough to say, you know what, I'm going to look at emails once in the morning, once in the afternoon, or twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon. And then you start getting messages and texts from coworkers saying, did you get my email? And it's like, okay, this is kind of defeating the whole point.
Sometimes you have to train people. I'm serious. Sometimes you have to train people that I don't do my email 17 times a day. I don't look at it every time a number pops up in the dock. In fact, I have the notifications for mail turned off because it's just irritating. I get so much email all day long. And I'm tempted to look at it. If I see a notification and it's something I need to attend to, my inclination is to stop what I'm doing and take care of it. Well, if I don't see it, that doesn't happen. And people have learned that I do email twice a day. I do it before lunch and before I leave the office. And in between, I don't look. Sue me. I mean, unless your job demands you be eagle-eyed on your mail, certainly people can wait 25 minutes. So at the very least, no mail icon notifications or anything like that for 25 minutes at a pop. And if you can do that, that's good. Better still is just do mail, however many times a day, but stick to it and don't look, turn the notifications off. If they, if you're going to be tempted, I don't have a little number down by my mail.
I think that's
I used to live by it, but I realized a lot of times I would just instinctively turn over to mail while I was doing something else because I thought it was important. And what I've learned is almost nothing is so important that it can't be handled a couple hours from now. And if it is, they text me or call me or whatever, and that's fine. If it's an emergency, they know I might not get an email till later today.
And that to me is the key here. And you said it well, train people. If it really is something that needs to be dealt with right now, then by all means call me. I personally try to make a habit if I'm calling a coworker now or really anytime, I try to ask, hey, am I interrupting anything? And if they say, can I have 5 minutes? Yeah, great. Unless the building is on fire, sure, that's fine. But you try to be respectful of other folks' time and the fact that they may be in the zone or in their 25 minutes and, let them get back to you.
Yeah, I try not to call people if I don't have to. And if I do have to, I try to text them or email them and say, hey, is it okay if I call you in a few minutes or tonight, or what's a good time? Because really, phone it's synchronous. You both have to be there at the same time to do it. Whereas email is asynchronous. I do my part when I feel like it. You do your part when you feel like it. And we both can work it into our schedules. I feel like if you call somebody, you're kind of forcing them to take some time out of their day to talk to you, whether they want to or not. So I try not to use the phone unless it's unless I have to. Also, right. This kind of thing, video chat, really great when I'm working with people remotely. Really helps you much more to see somebody's face when they're telling you something than just hearing them in your phone. So I do a lot of this with people I work with. And you might want to, if you don't do video conferencing, start using FaceTime so you don't feel so isolated. We've been having virtual happy hours. Last week it was our neighborhood. My wife and all her friends got together and made margaritas separately and got on Zoom, got on a 6-way Zoom call. And this week it's the family. My son's mother-in-law, or I guess his girlfriend's mom, she's real tech savvy, so she's got her own Zoom thing set up for work. So she set up a conference for, I think there's 8 of us in the family now. So we're going to all have a beer Wednesday night at 5:00 from our separate locations, which is kind of fun. I mean, really, I talk to these people pretty regularly anyway, but it's kind of nice to, like, have some social time together face to face, and it's cute.
Oh, it is. And this is something that's happening right now. I think more and more is that we are all appreciating the amount of social interaction we had at the office and how much that means to us. And for some folks, it means a lot. For others, maybe not so much. But they're finding that I think something is definitely lost when you don't have that. There's well, if I say bunker mentality, that sounds negative, and I don't mean it that way, but there's that shared experience that is so valuable. And so, yeah, it may be smart just to plan. We're doing virtual staff meetings at the office so that, everybody can see each other and we can have that interaction that you would normally across a table. But here we're having it online, and it works. Maybe not quite as well, but it works.
Hey, given the circumstances, it works great. The other thing I recommend is, as long as we are kind of homebound and have time on our hands, something else to think about is learn something new. It's like read a book about something, or make something, or take a class on something, or watch videos about it, but learn to do something you never did before. I'm going to learn SketchUp for woodworkers so that I can actually draw things that I'm going to build rather than chicken scratch them out on graph paper and not have them properly dimensioned and not really know what it's going to look like till the end. This will make me much more professional and allow me to do things I don't know how to do with a pencil in my hand. Making connections with the wood, like dovetail joint. I don't know how to do that with software. I don't even know how to do it with a pencil. So I think it's going to be something that I'll find helpful because I make stuff out of wood, but I've been drawing it up by hand and I'm not very good at it. I think this will help me be more precise.
And I like the idea that you're not just advocating a productivity thing, because so much of the time that feels, that's almost like homework. It turns into homework unless it's something you want to do. So
balance. I'm all about the balance. And, and one of my taglines at Working Smarter is do more work in less time so you have more time for things you love. That's really the whole thing, balance. And if you think about it, when you're working, what you're working for is so you have time to do things you want to do, right? Isn't that really what it comes down to? So when you start to look at it that way, you really start to pace your days so that you get that time to do things you want to do. And sometimes that means not doing things you used to do or breaking a habit. Habits are hard. It took me a long time to not check my email, not go look on YouTube 6 times a day for something funny, and not click on every link everybody sent me with something funny. And, all the things that I used to do, I've trained myself. I've made habits of not doing that. And what the benefit is, I finish my day that much sooner and spend the rest of it doing things I choose to do and like to do. And it's night and day. I was miserable when I was working 16-hour days. I was not a pleasant person. I was always uptight and agitated and angry. And now you see, I mean, I'm like Dr. Casual, Dr. Laid Back. Yeah, and I've got a book deadline in 2 weeks, and look at me, I'm fine with it. You know, in fact, I'm almost done. I got 2 more weeks, and I'm like coasting because I actually got myself way ahead.
So something else I wanted to ask you about that I've noticed, and unfortunately, I have not been able to attend one, but you've been doing some virtual meetings, some virtual training, I think, if I remember correctly, on Facebook.
I've done a bunch of stuff. I did on Facebook. I did a couple of Ask Me Anythings just because I was bored. On Saturdays, I held court for an hour. You could ask me anything you wanted. I didn't promise I'd answer you, but you could ask anything, and I would, if not answer you, respond humorously. So that was fun. Then I've been doing on Thursdays. I kind of suspended it because of the zombie apocalypse thing, and I don't feel much like making commercials and doing marketing right now. So it's kind of, I've kind of laid off. But I had been doing free weekly webinars. Every Thursday at noon, I was doing a 1-hour class where I would give you 3 really good techniques to use to focus and get more work done. One of them is Pomodoro. Snippets, we talk about snippets and, saving time that way. And then having a plan. The third big thing is talking about not going into your day saying, I'm going to work, but I'm going to work on this project and I'm going to do this and this and this. And, the more you plan your day, the more likely you are to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish during the day. That's the other thing I learned is when I didn't have a plan, when I just went to work and said, well, I'll just, whatever comes at me is what I'll do. Stuff didn't get done. Because if nothing came at me, I would procrastinate and do nothing until somebody told me to do something. Like I said, I'm a terrible employee.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I don't think that it's necessarily marketing at this point or taking advantage of things. I think there are a lot of people that would attend one of these and get a lot out of it. The problem
is I have to limit my class size, and I've got a lot of students already enrolled. So, and I'm the only one. That's the thing. I'm a solopreneur. I answer every question. I do all the tech support. So I can't just keep selling and growing the class, and I want to do something for people who are homebound that are having trouble with this. So I have 30 seats that I'm going to give. I have 30 seats I'm going to give out as scholarships for free to people who write to me and tell me they need them. And that's Bob at workingsmarterformacusers.com. 500 words or more. See, I want to know you're serious. But I'm giving away 30 scholarships, and I've got 30 seats that I'm going to sell for 90% off what I sell them for regularly. I'm not going to market it. It's just something I'm going to put up on Facebook and send to my subscribers on my email list. So, and if you're listening, you can be one of those 30. We'll have a coupon in the show notes, and it'll save you $449 because the course is $499, and this will get it for $49. Oh, and I'll have a coupon code also if you want to buy Working Smarter for Mac Users, the book. You can get it for $10 now. So it's $24.95 regularly. That's more than half off. I got to keep the lights on, but I said, honey, I said to my wife, I want to give it away. I'm just going to open up enrollment, and if we get swamped, we get swamped. And she said, no, you're not. Because for one thing, I pay by the student. So if I got big enrollment, I'd have more expenses than I already have, and I just can't give them away. So that's what I've decided: 30 free and 30 at 90% off. If you're having trouble focusing, Working Smarter for Mac Users is literally a 5-hour course on getting more done in less time. How to do more work in less time so you have more time for things you love.
That wraps up the first portion of our discussion with Bob, Dr. McLeVitus, about working from home and being productive. In the second half, Bob offers some more tips. He names the one thing, the surprising thing that he feels is his most essential productivity tool, and also shows off a piece of, I guess you would call it hardware, that helps keep him focused on his writing projects. And you won't want to miss that. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.